Webinar. This one.
All right, you're all set.
We're live.
Thank you, Neil.
Thanks, Neil. Yep, go right ahead, Matt.
All right. Good evening and welcome to the August 12th meeting of the City of Kalamazoo Zoning Board of Appeals, a volunteer board appointed by the City Commission. Tonight's meeting is being held electronically and is being streamed live on the city's Facebook page and YouTube channel. Will staff please conduct a roll call vote for attendance? And remember, we need to say the city and state we're in.
Thank you. Ms. Doan,
Present, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Mr. Carroll,
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Mr. Lager,
Present, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Ms. Vanden Hamburg,
Present, Kalamazoo, Michigan.
Ms. Harrington,
Present in Kalamazoo, Michigan.
and Mr. Turpinning.
Present, Kalamazoo, Michigan, in the great neighborhood of the Vine.
Thank you. Does staff have any announcements or changes to the original agenda?
I don't have any changes to the agenda. I do want to mention just announcement wise that the City Commission has approved virtual meetings through the end of December of this year. It doesn't mean that we're going to remain virtual that long, but that gives us the flexibility if the variants that are surfacing related to COVID-19 continue to cause difficulty and concern about in-person meetings, then we'll continue to stay virtual. So at this point, you definitely could plan on a virtual meeting in September and October. Beyond that, it just depends on the conditions. So that is all I have for announcements. Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. And we'll move on to acceptance of the May minutes. Are there any changes to the minutes? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of the minutes?
I make a motion to approve the May minutes.
And is there a second?
I'll second.
Jeff made a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approval of the May minutes, signal by saying aye.
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 And opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. I'll now explain the procedure for tonight's public hearing. For each request, the secretary will read the application into the public record. The applicant or his representative will then have 10 minutes to provide comments. Following that, public comments received via phone will be aired for the panelist and audience. If the viewer or viewing or listening audience would like to comment on one of the public hearing items, you can do so by calling 269-226-6573. That number's up on the screen. I'll say it again. It's 269-226-6573. And you'll be prompted to leave a recording. Comments received by the public hearing for a specific request will be played before the conclusion of that public hearing. After all public comments are listened to, we will close the public hearing on the request. Once the public hearing is closed, the board will then conduct what is called a finding of fact, where the board states what they feel are the facts of the request. The board must approve the finding of fact. Therefore, the first vote you hear is not a ruling on the request, but on the finding of fact. Then the board discusses the request in order to determine a ruling. The board reserves the privilege to ask questions of persons who have already spoken, even though the public comment portion is closed. Once discussion is ended, the board will move on to a roll call vote. A full board consists of 6 members, with 4 votes required to grant a variance or any other type of request. Will the board secretary now please read the first application into the record?
Certainly. One moment, please. An application for a variance for provisions of the zoning ordinance has been filed with the Zoning Board of Appeals by Robert Jeffries for 433 Riverview Drive, which is situated in the Commercial Mixed Use District, Sub-Area 6 of the Riverfront Overlay. The applicant is requesting two use variances for the property. One, a use variance from Chapter 3, Section 3.7-1 to utilize the existing building for auto detailing where car washes and auto detailing do not align with permitted uses for sub-area 6 of the Riverfront Overlay. And two, a use variance from Chapter 3, Section 3.7-1 to utilize a property for car sales, which also does not align with the sub-area 6 of the Riverfront Overlay. Sub-area 6 is intended for mixed-use development with commercial uses orientated towards a Riverview Drive being the primary use on each site. Please note that this request will not change the zoning classification of the property. This is a request for use variances only regarding the items described above.
Thank you. And Mr. Jeffries, this is your opportunity to explain your request.
Okay, thank you. So we started business in October of 2017, Jeffries Detailing. We rented a building over on Miller Road for over 3 years. And we have 3 dealerships that we do business for. Harold Ziegler, Chrysler, and Ford in Plainwell, and also Midway Chevrolet in Plainwell. Also, we have the dealer license also, which we would just want to be able to sell or display 1 to 4 vehicles at any given time. We're on a land contract now to purchase the building next year. We've made about 35,000, we're just under 35,000 our first year, and now we're making over 30,000 in 3 months. So we've grown tremendously. I grew up in the Kalamazoo area. I have a lot of family in the East Side neighborhood, and this would be a big opportunity for us to, own in the Kalamazoo area and do business and continue to grow, at this location. It's the way the business is set up is perfect for, or the way the building is set up is perfect for what we do. There's garage doors, plenty of room for parking. There's an office building, break room, bathroom. So, we just ask that you grant us this use variance to continue on and do business in the Kalamazoo area in this location.
Excellent, thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Jeffries from the board? Hearing none, pretty straightforward. Pete, would you like to do staff comments now?
Sure. I can do staff comments now and provide a little more background. And, Mr. Jeffries also in that the review sheet covering the criteria talked about the building itself. There were some comments made about how the building is really set up for an auto-oriented business. And looking at the history, it was built in 1986, and just laid out just as it is now, and it's been used by a heating and cooling contractor since then. So there is a small office area, and then there are 2 garage doors on the south side, which which one leads into a smaller bay. The garage door closest to Riverview Drive is a large, like, drive-in bay with, huge open space, which I think was where they stored their contractor materials. So, under special circumstances, that was mentioned as far as the layout of the building and how the site fits the business. And then Mr. Jeffries had also, mentioned that the auto detailing that goes on is not something, that this isn't like a parking lot type, car cleaning operation. I mean, this is fine detailed cleaning for the dealerships for vehicles that are then being turned around and sold. So the vehicles are worked on inside the building to do this level of detail work that needs to be done. So, you wouldn't see, vacuums and cleaning supplies out in the parking lot. That portion would be in the building. So that itself is, a little bit different than I think the ordinance talks about car washes not being permitted in that zone. Which car washes and car cleaning, that's how we end up, with placement of this detailing operation in that same category. But this is not a situation where you have drive-through lanes for a car wash or cars, or work being done on cars outside on the property. So it's as far as the business has been explained, it's pretty straightforward. And then there was the second element of the vehicles being sold on the property. And, that's one where, again, we're not looking to promote, used car sales lots along Riverview Drive at this point. However, that's not the primary use of this property. That's more of a accessory or secondary use, especially with the limitations that Mr. Jeffries is willing to operate under, where there wouldn't be more than 4 vehicles displayed at any one time. So, so there is, there is, I guess, some unique circumstances, the best way to put it, surrounding these types of uses, where, when I looked at the ordinance, as far as, where would you allow a car wash or, a used car sales operation, those would be zones like the CC, the commercial community zone, areas of the downtown, and the D3 zone, which is the kind of the outer perimeter of the downtown district, and then our manufacturing zone districts, M1 and M2. So, but in this case, both these uses, the car detailing is kind of low intensity inside the building. The auto sales is low intensity, limited number of vehicles displayed for sale. So, the circumstances, are there to, to show that it's possible to have these types of uses on on a level that would fit well with that commercial mixed use zone district. And then as far as talking about that commercial mixed use zone district. So this is the riverfront overlay, which we don't have a lot of variances in the riverfront overlay, but essentially what you have is you have the underlying zoning, and then you have the overlay, which has specific standards. And that's why I provided that secondary map to the board that shows those sub areas. So, essentially you think of it like, like layers of a cake. You have the base zoning, and then you have any overlay standards that apply. So first we look at the base zoning, which is the commercial mixed use zone. And then we look at the sub area of that, which is sub area 6. So sub area 6 is described as a mixed use, high design quality district with commercial uses predominantly, which is what we've got along Riverview Drive. It talks about as redevelopment occurs, parking lots shall be located to the side and rear of the buildings. and the primary structure shall be oriented forwards towards Riverview Drive. Well, that's essentially what we have here. Fortunately, when the building was built in 1986, back when the property actually was in the CC zone district before it was shifted over to commercial mixed use, they set the building on the property forward far enough that the parking lot is beside the building. So, so it's a good design as far as the layout of the site. And now we have the potential for longevity of use of this site with this new business being proposed. One other comment from the staff report to mention is just that, the intent was, to really bring about change when this overlay was put in place, and how they described the sub area 6, which covers that Riverview Drive corridor. And because it's such a commuter, a high traffic commuter corridor, since 2006, when this overlay went into place, the auto-oriented uses along the corridor really have not changed. We've continued to have car sales, auto repair, auto parts stores. The Monroe and what's the other one? The Monroe Auto Center, and then the muffler shop. This is a high traffic corridor. They do a great business there. So it's just proven that, I think that the zoning may need to be, changed in the future. And Christina Anderson, the city planner, and I have talked about that, a more intensive commercial zone may actually be more appropriate here, given the fact that it's, the intensity level hasn't changed at all since 2006 when these initial overlay standards were put in place. So, so there is also that question. Oh, and there was also the Indian Trails or Greyhound bus. They were before the board years ago with a proposal to expand their facility on the other side of Riverview Drive. And that happens to be in the CC zone district. So it is that more intensive commercial zone. However, they're doing repair on buses, which is technically heavy equipment. So because of the fact that this is a high traffic route, it's on the outskirts of downtown Kalamazoo for the buses to come in and go out. There was a lot of reasons why this was looked at as a site that was eligible for a variance to allow them to do bus repair there. And so that was granted, to Greyhound back in, somebody help me here. I think it was in the staff report, 2011, I think was the date on that. Find it here. So 2014, excuse me. So anyways, with that being said, staff is supportive of the use variance for the auto detailing for the reasons I mentioned. And the limited car sales, that's also a plausible, a condition is suggested, for limiting the display of vehicles to no more than 4. So that is really the comments I wanted to make tonight. Please let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Pete. Are there any other comments or questions from any board members? So at this point, I'll ask, let me find my place here. I'm trying to do this all on screens without paper. Okay, are there any comments that we received from the public?
There are no public comments at this time.
Okay. In that case, we will close the public hearing, and I'll ask for a motion for a finding of fact.
I move that the finding of fact for 433 Riverview Drive shall include all information included in the notice of public hearing dated July 28th of 2021. 16 notices of public hearing were sent and 0 responses were received. A public hearing was held before the board and public comments were accepted. The finding of fact shall include those documents just described and also the facts and comments made during the public hearing, which are summarized as follows. Summary should only address relevant facts that focus on the requirements under the necessary ordinance necessary for granting the variance. This does not need to be a verbatim recitation as the hearing is taped. Mr. Jeffries, owner of Jeffries Detailing Business, is looking to continue his business at this location. He would like to operate at the current site, and this site is conducive to the applicant's detailing business.
I think, could we add something about also having up to 4 vehicles, as Mr. Jeffrey said in that?
Sure. Mr. Jeffries would like to have between 1 and no more than 4 vehicles for sale on the property.
Is there a second to the motion of finding of fact or any additions that anyone would need to offer?
Jeremy, I offer a second.
Second. Very good. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And oppose signify with the same sign. Hearing none, the motion on the finding of fact carries. I now ask for a motion on the variance itself.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
it would be best to address one use variance at a time for voting.
okay, that's right. There are 2 use variances here. Let's address them one at a time. Good point. Ms. Doan?
All right. I make a motion for the passing of a use variance from chapter 3, section 3.7-1 to utilize the existing building for auto detailing where car washes and auto detailing do not align with permitted uses for sub area 6 of the riverfront overlay.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Okay. Discussion. Well, I can start. I'm going to be in favor of the granting of this use variance. I think that considering not only the overlay, but really considering the nature of the street and the various uses that are already on that street, this business would fit in perfectly. And it seems, especially since the garage is built the way it is and that detailing needs to occur in that garage for this level of professional detailing, it's just an ideal use there. I think that the literal interpretation of the terms of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of the rights that other business owners along the street already, sort of enjoy, and that this will not adversely affect any adjacent owners in any way. In fact, I think it'll contribute to the vibrancy of the Riverview Drive sort of business corridor there, I suppose. So I will be in favor.
Well said. I totally agree with everything you said. Congratulations on your business, Robert. This is wonderful. It's excellent.
All right. If there are no other comments, can we have a roll call vote, Mr. Eldridge?
We'll start with Doan,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Logger,
Yes.
Harrington,
Yes.
Turpinning,
Yes.
Vanden Hamburg.
Yes.
The variance is granted. Can we now have a motion on the second use variance request?
Certainly. I make a motion to pass the use variance from Chapter 3, Section 3.7-1 to utilize the property for car sales, which also does not align with sub-area 6 of the riverfront overlay to be no more than 4 vehicles.
I second that motion.
Very good. And discussion.
It seems low impact and in keeping with the rest of the corridor. I don't know I don't see a problem.
Oh, I think for the same reasons that I said with regard to the prior variance, I'm going to be in favor of this too. I mean, the only other thing I'd like to add was that I think it was great to hear that Mr. Jeffries has relationships in the East Side neighborhood up there, and that this is just seems great for that side of town.
I know with speaking with the East Side Association through Building Blocks of Kalamazoo that they welcome good stewards of the neighborhood, and they will, I imagine, welcome this with open arms.
All right.
Is there going to be, and did I miss this, consideration given to the condition on the number of vehicles?
To be no more than 4 vehicles.
There
I
would be
added
no
that at
more
the
than
end.
4. Okay, you did throw that in. I was thinking back and I'm like, did we cover that base? Let me just double check before we get to a roll call vote here. Okay.
It was definitely in there. Hearing no further discussion or seeing no discussion, can we have a roll call vote?
We'll start with Mr. Turpinning
Yes.
and Harrington,
Sorry, I was trying to find my thing. Yes.
Vanden Hamburg,
Yes.
Chair Lager,
Yes.
Carol,
yes,
Doan.
Yes.
Very good. That motion carries as well. Thank you. I'm flipping between screens here. Is there another agenda item? I'm sort of lost in my screens.
There is not another agenda item. This was the only public hearing for tonight, and there wasn't any staff-related business to discuss.
All right. Well, with that, I think we are adjourned.
Good night.
Have a good
Good
evening,
night.
everyone.
Hey, I want
Good
to
night.
thank everybody for allowing this. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep. Good
Good
luck
luck
in
with
that
your business.
location.
Robert, good luck.
You all come down and see us sometime, and we'll give you a deal on the detail for your car.
Thank you.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. Good night, all.
Good night.
Live on Christy Jeff Carroll app. Active map displaying my video. Displaying Beth Van Dam. Active speaker video. Displaying City of Kalamazoo participants. Button. Charles Bear. Stop my City of Kalamazoo.